Russia and the United States have been sworn enemies since time immemorial. In the realm of pugilism, Russia has a contender who is nothing short of a knockout machine, Dimitri Bivol. But the United States hasn't lagged behind. Over the years, new and improved fighters have emerged from the cradle of the world's eagle to challenge warriors from other regions. Many of them have been crushed by the infamous Aztec warriors. But there was one night when Dimitri Bivol had to defend his honor and that of his nation against an American who didn't take him seriously.
Polish support.
Welcome. In today's video, you'll witness a clash of titans. Two nations putting their pride on the line in a confined battlefield where only one would emerge victorious after 12 scheduled rounds, if they didn't stop their rival first. Get comfortable. This historic war is about to resume. Joe Smith Jr. is the name of the unfortunate fighter who in 2019 had to face Dimitri Bivol. Smith Jr. was born in Long Island, New York, where he took his first steps in the discipline before debuting as a professional in 2009. With only 2 previous losses and 22 wins, 20 of them by knockout. When his participation in Bivol's next bout was announced, the most hopeful among his supporters saw him as a potential victor. However, Bivol's 15 undefeated victories, 11 of them by knockout, ensured that a tough battle would take place, with the outcome undecided until the very last second. On March 9th, Smith Jr. and Bivol stepped into the ring at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona to clash. With Gary Rosado as the third man in the ring, the bell rang to start the first round of a contest that would be etched in the golden pages of boxing history.
Of 8 kids, owns his own tree trimming company.
First round, Smith Jr.'s left hand tested Bivol's guard from the start, pushing him back until his back touched the ropes.
Of Joe Smith.
The round began as a typical first-round reconnaissance until Smith Jr. dared to start throwing his right hand at Bivol. Bivol practiced quality over quantity, maintaining his firm defensive stance and only letting his left hand go when he deemed it necessary to remind Smith Jr. that another warrior stood on the ring.
At the forum, I was there. It was a sad way for a legend to go, but that's how legends die hard.
Out of caution or respect, neither fighter attacked aggressively during these first 3 minutes. Still, the intensity of the fight never stopped increasing.
Smith's people, that Bivol is obviously outstanding, but that he's slightly wide.
Second round, Smith Jr.'s left hand continued to test Bivol's guard. When Bivol began to advance, the American had no choice but to start moving around the ring. Occasionally, Bivol's left hand slipped through Smith Jr.'s guard. This new, more offensive stance from Bivol neutralized the boldness the American had shown in the previous round. It wasn't until the final seconds that Smith Jr. launched an attack that made Bivol dance around the ring and ended in a dangerous clinch just as the bell rang to close the round. Third round, Smith Jr. tried to repeat the same opening strategy from his previous rounds, but was quickly pushed against the ropes. When the fight moved back to the center of the ring, it was clear that Bivol intimidated him enough to force a change to a more tactical fighting style. Occasionally, brief left-right combinations were thrown at Bivol's body, but they didn't connect until near the last minute of the round. Then Bivol used his good footwork to dizzy Smith Jr., enough that he couldn't land another accurate shot.
Back for Smith all week, no question. Again, he's got a lot of class.
Fourth round, Smith Jr. initiated the exchange of punches with a sudden left-right combination. Bivol, stretching his left hand to maintain distance, worked to position the American in the right place in time to execute a precise attack.
I think the light heavyweight division is just dominated by Eastern Europeans, and they're all scary.
During a clinch, Smith Jr. dirtily used his right hand to hit Bivol in the back of the head. When the fight resumed, the American tried to jump on Bivol, but he didn't realize that Bivol moved around the ring with the agility of a gazelle. But when face-to-face, Bivol could attack like the king of the jungle himself. With 20 seconds remaining, Bivol's resilience was tested. The American missiles kept exploding against his fortress, leaving him no choice but to protect himself and absorb them. In a twist that turned into more of a tangle than a clinch, the referee intervened to put distance between the fighters, ending this moment of tension.
Solve a puzzle from a guy who is fundamentally sound. High ring IQ.
Fifth round, a clinch marked the beginning of the fifth round. When not clinching, Smith Jr.'s left hand tested Bivol's face. In a miscalculation, Smith Jr. found himself against the ropes. There, he was threatened by Bivol for a few seconds, but the Russian Titan didn't move in. Bivol moved around the ring as needed, reducing the Americans' attack accuracy. During the last few seconds, it was Smith Jr. who openly decided not to engage in the fight.
But Bivol, he told us in the fighter meetings, I love foot feigning, I love defense, I like controlling things.
Sixth round, Smith Jr. cautiously came out of his corner for the sixth round. While Bivol stretched his left hand to keep him at a distance, the American threw brief left-right combinations to test his guard. Ironically, Bivol's defensive left hand had more success reaching than Smith Jr.'s offensive one. As a result, the American had no choice but to start orbiting around his opponent. During the last minute, desperate clinches occurred. Bivol decided to go for the head, and Smith Jr. had no choice but to lower it and cling to his body to avoid being hit.
Glad to hear that Donald Curry's being accepted, the Cobra.
Yeah, yes.
I loved watching him fight.
Former welterweight champion, #1.
Seventh round. It seems Smith Jr.'s guts had run out. He started using his left hand to keep Bivol at a distance, whom he would grab when he came in, as if his life depended on it. Bivol continued to move around the ring, showing great vitality. However, he was now landing solid punches, sticking to his quality over quantity strategy. Midway through the round, Bivol initiated a close-range exchange of punches that finally made the risk of at least witnessing a knockdown apparent.
I would say it wouldn't have to be.
There are some years too, Brian.
Oh, hard jab from Bivol.
Smith Jr. countered and freed himself from the tension. During the last few seconds, both fighters opted for long-range combat.
What's unfortunate is, unless something significant changes, Dimitri Bivol is going to have a very hard time hitting him.
Eighth round. The eighth round unfolded as a tactical fight. Neither fighter boldly attacked, but neither did they escape the possible offense of their rival. The pace of the fight undoubtedly slowed down. As Bivol moved around the ring, Smith Jr. tried to follow him closely with body shots. During the last minute, Bivol reduced the American's attacks by bombarding him with repeated combinations. After pinning him against the ropes for a few seconds, the fight slowed down again.
Bivol's maybe taking this round off, and Joe Smith.
Oh, another hard shot. He is able to hook right off that jab and throw.
Ninth round, Smith Jr. tried to revive his attacks on Bivol, but was quickly neutralized. The American's frustration led him to grab Bivol by the waist for no reason. This caused the referee to ask them to separate. Unsatisfied, Smith Jr. grabbed Bivol by the waist again, lifting and throwing him to the ground.
Punch. Now he's fighting the dead.
Wow. Now, Smith.
As a consequence, the referee called for a timeout. The American only received a warning of a possible point deduction, while everyone present laughed at Bivol. This only enraged the beast. For the rest of the round, Bivol's fists found themselves crashing into Smith Jr.'s face repeatedly.
I want to beat this guy up.
Well, look, not for nothing. I agree with you, BK, that they should have.
10th round, Smith Jr.'s rat-like attitude had exhausted Bivol's patience, which became evident during the 10th round. Bivol continued to advance and coax the American's guard. His stance was firm, and his punches landed solidly. Smith Jr. had no choice but to try to keep him at a distance. His frustration led him, after the closing bell, to violently push Bivol with his fists unusually close to his face. By doing so, the American was only digging his own grave deeper.
As I mentioned, Bivol.
Good shot there. That might have hurt Bivol right there. That was a
11th round, Bivol became the clear aggressor of the fight, and the 11th round came to prove it. Smith Jr. started the round trying to attack, but Bivol's good footwork allowed the Russian to evade him. Bivol was a predator toying with his prey, making it clear that Smith Jr. was incapable of hurting him. And once again, the American played with fire by not stopping his punches when the closing bell rang.
And the fact that he's back in this now, in the 11th, is remarkable.
12th round, Bivol came out for the final round with one mission: not to grant his rat-like rival the victory. With his left hand, he successfully contained his offense. With his good footwork, he made him dance around the ring, and occasionally he landed heavy blows that resonated throughout the American's body.
I guess the F word doesn't translate well in Russian.
With 10 seconds left, Bivol cornered Smith Jr. and publicly punished him for his unfortunate actions with a lethal barrage of punches that could have ended in a knockout had there been more time on the clock. By the time the final bell sounded, everything had been decided.
Has him hurt. Hard right hand. Smith has never been down. Bivol on the attack, but it's over.
Judge's decision. When the announcer took center ring, the result was evident. Dimitri Bivol won the bout by unanimous decision. All those who laughed when he was dirtily thrown to the ground had to stand up and applaud him.
Fight against a very game, tough guy with real world-class power, and he makes his statement to say, hey.
If you've made it this far, thank you. Remember that the best way to support my content is by leaving a like on the video. Do you think Joe Smith Jr. had any real chance of taking away Dimitri Bivol's undefeated record at that time? I'll be reading your comments.